Good afternoon, Facebook family. I'm Jen Phillips with Jen Phillips LV, live here with our friend, Miss Stephanie Mann. And today she is going to share with us the first step to empowerment parenting. She's been with us twice before, giving us a brief background about how she has improved her community through her interaction with them and made her made her community a safer place to be for everybody, not just kids, but adults, and everybody felt safer. And so she came up with an idea on how do we teach people how to improve their parenting. And she came up with this process called empowerment parenting. And today we're going to talk about the first step, which is that you are someone who is unique and special, and not just you, but your kids, everybody. And so Stephanie, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. What made you decide to start this book?
Well, it started for me when I was working with the Oakland Police Department, and this goes back a ways. And I got to know a lot of homeless people that used to sit around the police department because there was a park called Old Man's Park behind the police department in Oakland, California. And that's where they used to congregate. So I guess they felt safer being in front of the police department. And I got to know quite a few of them. And that's how I got involved in the first place.
Oh, very cool. That's very cool. Very cool. So this first step, empowerment parenting, but the first step is recognizing our own uniqueness. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, the first thing I noticed was that the homeless had very low self-esteem. You know, all of us are born magical, basically. I mean, we are so incredible. We are little spiritual creatures that have such a bright light. And child abuse and neglect, which I saw in the homeless, takes that bright light away and makes people feel bad about themselves. And what children really need is support. And these are things most of us know: patience. They need love, of course, and they need guidance. So that's one of the reasons I put together Empowerment Parenting, because I saw so many children that didn't feel good about themselves. As a matter of fact, I was teaching Empowerment Parenting in after school programs, and one little boy was looking at me when we started to do step one, and he had kind of a quizzical look on his face. And I said, "You look like you want to ask me a question." And he said, "Yes." He says, "You said all the kids are special and they have all of these inner talents that they haven't explored yet." And he said, "I don't feel like that." He said, "My dad tells me I'm stupid."
Oh,
So, you know, my heart goes out to kids where parents, I think they're trying to motivate them, because I went on and asked him, "Well, why does your dad tell you that?" And he said, "Well," he said, "I don't do well in math, and I'm not a real good student." But he said, "I told my dad I wanted to be a mechanic. And that's when he told me I was too stupid to be a mechanic." And I said, "Why did he tell you that?" And he said, "Because I get poor grades in math, and you need to know math to be a mechanic." And so I went on to explain to him. I said, "Most of us don't learn the same way. We all go to school. We all learn different things at different times as we need them. And you will find that you have this ability to learn the math you need when you decide to become a mechanic, whether it's now or a little bit later. But, you know, understand that you already have those tools within yourself." And he said, "You think so?" And I said, "Absolutely." And I said, "You know what? All you have to do is have a goal like you do, being a mechanic, and then you will finally figure out how to do the math. Guaranteed, you can do it." Now, this little boy went out of the classroom so happy. Parents, please encourage your children. All children need encouragement and to know that they can do whatever they want to do. And don't discourage them from anything that they, even if when I was little, I wanted to be a ballet dancer, but I had big feet. So I wasn't going to be a ballet dancer. But my mother said, bought me some big ballet shoes. And anyway, I didn't become a ballet dancer, but she was encouraging. She said, you can do it. So I want every parent to understand that your children are magical. They have hidden talents, they're undiscovered. They haven't been discovered yet, but they're there. And we have incredibly spiritual kids, all of them. But today we are spending $220 million a day on child abuse and neglect. Now, you know that we have a big problem with educating parents about how incredible their kids are. And that's really the most important step to get them off on the right foot.
Wow. Well, and it's interesting because when you talk about how everybody is unique and special, and if you look at the science behind it, like, I don't know, is it a one in like trillion, billion? I mean, it's a huge number or a tiny, tiny number. Like the fact we're even here, like the fact that we have made it through the sperm and the egg meeting and matching and everything, and then making it through the pregnancy, like all of those pieces and parts just to make us right here, right now, right where we are, is a miracle. And I think a lot of times we take that for granted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And every child is different, even if they're from the same family. Now, Jennifer, I know you have 4 children.
Yeah.
Are they all the same?
Oh no, I would say my oldest boy and my youngest boy are closest if I was going to compare, that they were the most similar. But even then, they're still so different.
Absolutely. And I have 3 children. And my first child was a hanger-oner. She would just hang on to my leg and she wasn't about to let go. And, I'd have to push her into things. I'd have to get her involved in activities to bring her out of her shell because she was only 3, 4 years old and she's still hanging on to me. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong here? Well, it wasn't so much I was doing something wrong. It was that she was a very sensitive child and she was shy. Now, my second daughter was a little bully. She came out, fist going, and oh my gosh, I had to pull her back. And I had to have very strong consequences for her in order to get her to feel good about herself. So these are a balancing act between one daughter and the other. And then my son, when he was born, he was kind of right in the middle. Sometimes he would be too shy and upset about being bullied at school. And then other times he came back and I get a call from the principal saying he was being really outspoken. And so you've got all these mixtures of kids. And I think everybody can kind of identify with that because children are not the same. And you have to change your own parenting skills to match those kids.
That's so very true. And so, I'm a teacher by day, right? And it's funny because this week I got to work with 2 different classes of students, 4th graders, so 8, 10, or 9, 10-year-olds. And we were talking about their values and what they find to be important to them. One class was reading a book called Bud Not Buddy, and it was all about this kid. I'm not sure if he was abandoned or ran away, but he had this suitcase full of his important stuff. And I'm like, if you were in that situation, what would be in your suitcase? What would be your important stuff? And trying to get them to see what their important stuff is, things that are important to them. And the stuff that you and I would go like, seriously, that's what, okay, but that's their stuff. And
Right.
allowing that to be their stuff and to be their thing that they're excited about, or that's what they want to spend their time with or their money on or whatever. And then I was trying to teach my teachers, if we can find that thing, and for some people it was their cat, another kid it was their cousin, but I said, if we can find that thing and we can connect what they want to learn, not necessarily they want to learn, but connect what they need to learn, what we need them to learn. If we can make a connection with those, just like you were saying, have a goal. So if their goal is to hang out with these people or they want to be a video game designer or whatever, well, why do we need to learn math? Why do we need to learn to read? Why do we need to learn science and social studies? Why do we need to learn fractions? And give kids an opportunity to find the connections, because if they can find value in what we're trying to teach them, they'll latch right on.
Absolutely.
And it's just a matter of them having that connection Just like you were saying, like the kid with the mechanic, he wants to be a mechanic. He knows he's going to need to learn math, but it may not be trigonometry. I mean, it might be. I don't know. But whatever it is, he may not need calculus, but he's going to need to know fractions. He's going to need to know something. And so, how do we encourage for them
Absolutely.
instead of deflate?
And you bring up an important point because what that really takes is sitting down and asking questions and listening, because a lot of parents are good at that, but then there are a lot of parents that aren't. They're busy. They're two people are working, not right now, but now is a good time to sit down with each child and try and figure out who they are, what they like to do, what upsets them. One of the things I put in empowerment parenting was a attitude barometer, and it has 16 steps. And the bottom step is I am lonely, and let's see, I am lonely, and what's another word for loneliness? Anyway, and frightened. I'm scared. That's the bottom. The top is I have a goal and I'm working toward that goal. But there are a lot of places in between that parents need to be aware of, so that they can kind of say, okay, where is my child on the attitude barometer? Would they be in the middle? Would they be at the bottom? Or are they on the top? Because kids all grow at different times. It takes a lot of patience, a lot of heart. And that's why mothers are pretty good at being mothers. And fathers are the disciplinarians, usually. We need women that are disciplinarians too. But I think women are more nurturing, and the men are a little tougher and say, well, let's get out and try this. I remember when I was 8 years old, my father lived, his mother lived on a farm, my grandmother. And I went down to the farm, and my dad said to my mother, I'm going to take Stephanie out on the tractor, on the big Columbine, to get the wheat going and all that. And she said, oh no, that's dangerous. You got to be careful about that. That's not a good thing to do. And he said, no, she's just going to sit there and she's going to observe. Well, we got out of the way of the house where she couldn't see, and he had me driving the tractor. And he said, okay, see the furrows? Just steer, and then when you get to the end, here's the brake, put the brake on, and I will turn the tractor around, and then we'll come back. We did that. I had a blast. I learned confidence. I could do this. And we told mother when we got back. She said, what? And because I had such a good time, and I really learned something. So don't be afraid to let your kids experiment. Don't over shelter them. Don't be a helicopter. I think child abuse is being a helicopter parent too. So
I
I
would
think,
agree with that today, and especially because I'm in the school system, and parents. I mean, parents, we love you, and we know you love your kids. But
right,
here's what we know is that we've got an entitlement society going on right now, and it's like I want my kid to have, I want my kid to do, and they need to get good grades. Well, they need to be theirs. And so, like, you went to school, your child needs the opportunity to fail. And I think a lot of times when we look at our kids, we don't want them to fail. We take it personally when they do.
that's right. It's a reflection.
It's a reflection, right? And so, but if we were able to let them fail in the safety of our home,
Right.
many children would not fail outside of the home. If we let them fail with us, in school, let them fail with us as their safety net, then they don't end up in trouble with the law later. They don't end up going after boundaries later because they got to fail here. They know what it feels like. They know what it feels like to bounce, and they know that you're there to pick them up.
Right. Well, to give you an illustration of that, because I think children have to learn that at an early age too. My son came home from school, first grade, and he was crying and upset. And I said, what's the matter? And he said, I'm so upset. I don't want to go back to school anymore. And it took a little talking to him. I mean, it's only his day 2 or 3 or 4. You can't quit now. And anyway, to find out that a boy was picking on him, you know, how kids are. I don't know, he didn't like something. And so I said, okay, his big hero at that time was Superman. So I said, you got to put on your Superman costume and let those word bullets just bounce off your chest, just like Superman would. Well, he didn't quite get the concept. And the next day he's coming back and he's crying again. And so we went through the scenario about, you know, let those word bullets bounce off your chest. And, you know, if he's hurting you or touching you, to just tell a teacher. Well, finally, about 3 or 4 days later, he came home all excited. And he said, well, I've took care of little Johnny. And I said, okay, what did you do? Because I'm going, uh-oh, you don't know what your kids are going to do. And he said, well, he said, told him I'm going to punch him in the nose if he didn't stop. And I said, well, you didn't punch him, did you? And he said, no, but I turned around and told the teacher, and he hasn't bothered me since. So he interpreted it his way. He didn't hit the boy, but he did tell the teacher, and that put an end to it. So he was empowered, felt good about himself, that he had taken care of it. I didn't have to go to school, and I didn't have to sit down with a teacher and say, this little boy is doing this to my son and I don't like it. No, let him solve his own problem. And I think that's really critical for a lot of kids, unless there's something dangerous going on. That's different.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. Stephanie, I don't want to give away your book. So what's a piece of homework parents can have? Because next week we'll go into step 2. What's a piece of homework that parents could have for this week? Like, what can they do to help get them ready for the next step, or to really integrate this step that you're sharing with us today?
Oh, okay. Well, I think they need to sit down and just talk to their child. If you have 2 or 3 kids, write a list. Here's Agnes, George, and Henrietta. And then write a list underneath where you think they are in the scheme of things. For example, if your child says, I'm lonely and upset, what would you, okay, put it down. Or they say, I am sick and tired of being in this home by myself and I want out of here and I think I should be able to go to school, or just anything. And put those notes down under each child. Spend 15 minutes with each child, and do something together as a group. Maybe play cards or a board game or something. You want your children to know that they are your priority. And each time you do something special with them, you're creating a memory, a positive memory for those children. So that's something that they can do. And next time we'll give them another assignment that's just a little bit harder.
There we go. Thank you for everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing us with your wisdom. And next week, we're going to go into the next step, learning more about what we can do to empower ourselves as parents and empower our children to be productive citizens ready to face their life and reach their goals. So thank you for joining me today at Jen Phillips LV, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. If you have comments in the chat bar, Stephanie will manage those. And if you got questions, please share this with your friends. Let them know, counselors, teachers, parents, let them know what we're doing here and how we can share her wisdom, her knowledge, not only as a parent, but as a safety expert in the community. So thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful Friday and a fabulous weekend.
Good to see you. Take care.
You too.